Emily stood before the full-length mirror in the church's bridal waiting room, the pristine white wedding gown clinging tightly to her body like a bitter reminder of everything fake. The silk was smooth, but it felt heavy, suffocating like a disguise that didn't belong to her. The overwhelming perfume from the bouquet of roses in her hands made her dizzy, her head spinning between the sickly sweet scent and the rising tide of fear. Her reflection looked like a lifeless porcelain doll, thick makeup, overly rosy cheeks, blazing red lipstick, not Emily Peterson, the girl who once dreamed of sketching by the bay, but a perfect version sculpted to meet everyone else's expectations. "This is the best thing for our family, sweetheart," her mother Laura fussed behind her, adjusting the veil with a trembling voice full of both hope and anxiety. She gently tugged a loose curl into place. "Lucas is the ideal man, the mayor's son, a bright future ahead. You'll have a stable life, everything you need. I know you're nervous, but it'll all be okay." Emily gave a weak nod, but inside everything was falling apart. Her mother, with graying hair and a tired smile, had always been the family optimist. She had sacrificed so much to raise Emily and her younger brother, working tirelessly in their father's small store. But today that optimism only deepened Emily's ache. She wanted to scream that what's best for the family shouldn't mean giving up her own happiness, but the words stuck in her throat, because Emily knew the truth behind this so-called ideal. Lucas Thompson, tall, hair slicked back, a flawless smile of 32 perfectly white teeth, was a living statue of success. The mayor's son, heir to the local political dynasty, with a beachside mansion and luxury cars. But every time he looked at her, a chill ran down her spine. Last week, at a supposedly intimate dinner in a high-end restaurant, he had pulled out a thick prenuptial agreement listing assets, obligations, and even sexual rights scheduled weekly, Wednesdays and Saturdays, like boardroom meetings. "We need to be clear, Emily," he'd said in a flat, emotionless voice. "I don't want any misunderstandings later." Then a small accident changed everything. While using the shared computer at her father's office, Emily had accidentally opened Lucas's email he'd forgotten to log out. The emails were like knives to her heart. Lucas was having an affair with his personal assistant, a much younger woman, and covering up a major political scandal, accepting bribes from construction contractors in exchange for city contracts. "Keep this quiet and we'll be fine," he had written to his mistress. Emily copied the messages to her phone, hands shaking, but she didn't dare tell anyone. How could she marry someone like that? A life built on lies where love was nothing more than a transaction? Now the organ music echoed from the main hall, a solemn melody, a reminder that time was running out. Guest business tycoons, politicians, even a few local celebrities were murmuring outside. "She's so lucky," someone whispered, dripping with envy. "Marrying Lucas Thompson? Every girl's dream." Emily nearly laughed bitterly. Lucky. She was about to walk into a gilded prison where everything was planned out, with no room for dreams of painting or personal freedom. Her heart pounded like a war drum. She was marrying for the sake of the family. Her father, Henry Peterson, a local businessman, desperately needed the mayor's support to save his company from bankruptcy after a failed real estate investment. He'd borrowed heavily, and the mayor, Lucas's father, had promised to intervene if the wedding went through. If she backed out, her father would lose everything, the company would collapse, and he might even face prison for financial fraud. She had pleaded with him, "Dad, I don't love him." But he only shook his head. "Love comes later, sweetheart. This is our chance to save the family." Laura had cried, "I don't want you to suffer, but we have no choice." But Lucas's secret was more than she could bear. It wasn't just infidelity, it was a full-blown deception. A life where she would be the future mayor's wife, forced to smile for the cameras and cover up her husband's scandals. "Are you ready, dear?" Laura asked, eyes glistening with tears. Emily nodded, but her hands clenched the bouquet so tightly that thorns pierced her skin. As her mother turned away to grab a tissue, Emily glanced around. The back door, the emergency exit she'd scouted last week, hidden behind curtains, was waiting. Tucked in a small pouch beneath her dress, she had everything she needed. A few $100s in savings, her favorite sketchbook, and her phone with all the evidence against Lucas. Her heart pounded wildly. She knew the consequences would be brutal. She'd lose her job at her father's company. Firing was inevitable. Enrage her family, and Lucas might even sue her for defamation. But the thought of living next to a liar made her breathless. "Mom, I need to use the restroom," she whispered, voice shaking. Laura nodded, preoccupied with her final touch-ups. Emily quietly opened the back door. The faint click sounded like freedom's whisper. She slipped off her glittering heels. They clacked loudly on the stone floor and stuffed them into her bag. She took a deep breath. The sea breeze drifted in from the nearby bay, bringing the salty scent of waves and a whisper of hope. "I'm sorry, Mom," she murmured, tears slipping down her cheeks. Then she ran, full speed. The gown fluttered behind her like a sail in the wind, the white fabric now streaked with dust. Her bare feet burned on the hot asphalt, but she didn't stop. The church bells rang behind her, one final warning, but Emily didn't look back. She darted through dark alleyways, avoiding the paparazzi lurking by the main gates. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it might explode. Her breath came in ragged gasps. "What now?" she thought, dashing across a lush park where children played without a care. She had no clear plan, just the certainty that she had to run. Away from Lucas. Away from the contract. Away from the suffocating lie. The wind picked up, carrying the sea's scent stronger now. The bay shimmered under the late afternoon sun like a siren's call. This was the craziest decision she had ever made, but it was also the first time she felt truly free. Even if it meant losing everything, her job, her family's trust, and any certainty about the future. Emily kept running, unaware that fate was waiting at the next corner, a collision that would change everything. Emily burst out of the dark alley, her bare feet burning on the scorching asphalt, each step like needles stabbing into her skin. Sweat mixed with tears blurred her vision, but she didn't dare stop. The church bells still echoed faintly behind her, a distant alarm signaling that Lucas and the families had probably discovered her disappearance. Keep running, she told herself, heart pounding so violently it felt like it might shatter her chest. She didn't watch where she was going. Her only focus was to get as far away as possible from the church, from the cold-hearted prenup and Lucas's web of lies. The sea breeze blowing in from the nearby bay offered no comfort, unable to calm the rising fear in her chest. "What now?" Emily gasped, breathless. She had no real plan, just a small pouch hidden under her dress with some savings and her sketchbook, the last things that still felt like hers. Suddenly, wham! A loud, dull thud. Emily crashed straight into what felt like a wall, but it was a wall of flesh. A tall man carrying a paper coffee tray and a steaming box of pizza from a nearby diner. Not a complete stranger in that chaotic moment, she recognized him. Max, the chef who had catered her father's birthday party a year ago. She vaguely remembered his handsome face, the half smile, and the amazing seafood salad he had made. They both went flying. The pizza box exploded, gooey slices flinging through the air and sticking to Emily's pristine white dress like greasy yellow battle scars. Coffee splashed everywhere, soaking into the silk and spreading like a dark mud puddle on the pavement. The sharp bitterness of burnt coffee mixed with the melted cheese under the harsh afternoon sun created an awful stench. Emily lay flat on her back, her dress spread around her like a giant umbrella. She tried to sit up without flashing the world, her face flushed red from embarrassment and pain. Her butt had slammed hard into the pavement. "Holy hell!" the guy Max swore, his voice low and gravelly but clearly annoyed. He scrambled upright and brushed pizza crumbs off his hands, revealing a scruffy 3-day beard, sparkling blue eyes that gleamed like the bay in the sunlight. He wore a faded t-shirt and worn jeans, looking more like a drifter than someone who used to cook for high-end events. "Are you a zombie or something? Or filming a horror movie? That wedding dress, did you just rob a bank in that thing?" Emily blinked, trying to catch her breath, but the words slipped out before she could think. I'm sorry. I just ran away from my wedding." Her voice trembled, a mix of embarrassment and strange relief. At least she had said it out loud. Max's eyes widened as he looked her over, filthy gown, bloody feet, tangled hair. Then he burst out laughing, the sound echoing through the quiet alley. Wow, this is straight out of a romantic comedy. Runaway bride crashes into random guy, lives happily ever after. Except, in movies, they don't dump coffee on each other. Wait a sec. You're Emily Peterson? I catered your family's party. Your dad's birthday, right? The seafood salad. You loved it? Emily nodded, face growing even redder. But inside, a strange wave of relief welled up. A familiar face, not some random stranger. And that crooked grin, while slightly obnoxious, made her feel not alone. Yes, that's me. Sorry about all this. She gestured at the mess on the ground and tried to stand, wincing from the pain in her foot. Max offered his hand warm and steady, nothing like his scruffy exterior. Suddenly, a distant police siren rang out, followed by muffled shouting, "Find the missing bride!" Emily froze, her face going pale. Lucas must have sounded the alarm. With his connections, the police would search every corner of the city. They're looking for me," she whispered, panicked. Max glanced toward the sound, then back at her, letting out a long sigh. "Listen, runaway bride, I'm not a creep. I'm Max Harlan, unemployed chef, part-time boat owner. I live on a fishing boat over at the dock. If you need a place to hide for a bit, follow me. I've done some running myself. I know what it's like to flee hell." Emily hesitated, eyeing him. That smirk and sarcastic tone were kind of annoying, but those blue eyes were honest. He wasn't a stranger, he'd worked for her family, and the idea of hiding on a boat felt way safer than wandering the streets alone. The sirens were getting closer. She had to decide. "All right," she said, her voice more confident than she expected. "But if you're lying to me, I'll call the cops myself." Max let out a laugh. "Don't worry, I'm not the kidnapping type. Come on before you become tonight's breaking news." They hurried toward the docks. Emily limped along, her filthy dress flapping in the wind. The marina buzzed with fishermen and yachts, the air thick with the scent of fresh fish in salty sea. Max's boat, an old cozy-looking fishing vessel with peeling paint that read Sea Escape, bobbed gently on the glittering water. "Welcome to my palace," Max said as he opened the small cabin door. Inside was cluttered with cooking tools and the scent of aged wood. "No champagne, but I've got cold beer. Sit down, you look like you're about to pass out." Emily sank onto the worn-out sofa, her body completely drained. She began to talk about Lucas, the mechanical prenup, the affair meant to hide a bribery scandal. "He's not even human," she muttered, voice thick with emotion. "He's an emotional robot." Max listened, nodding occasionally, then broke in with a grin. "Sounds like he is a robot. I bet he schedules kisses too Monday. Peck on the cheek, Wednesday, lip lock." For the first time all day, Emily laughed. The sound was soft, but it filled the quiet cabin with warmth. The laugh made Max pause and glance at her, but he quickly covered the moment by pouring her a beer. She kept talking, her voice growing quieter as exhaustion took over. Her mind spun with the fallout. Her dad would lose everything, her mom would cry, Lucas might sue. But here on this boat with the sea breeze and gentle waves, she felt safe. For now. Her eyes grew heavy. She drifted off on the old couch, still clutching her small pouch tightly. Max watched her sleep and sighed. A runaway bride. Life really is a romantic comedy. He gently draped a thin blanket over her, then stepped out onto the deck, staring out at the sunset melting into the bay. Tomorrow would be a new journey for both of them. You're watching Soul Stories, where every story whispers of love, healing, and hope. Let us know which city you're watching from. Morning sunlight streamed through the small cabin window, shining directly into Emily's eyes like a rude wake-up call. She blinked, trying to gather her senses through the lingering fog of sleep. First, she registered her tangled hair damp with sweat and crusted with road dust. Then came the wave of panic. She was lying on a narrow bed inside the boat's cabin, not the sofa, as she vaguely remembered. Warm sunlight spilled over her skin. The breeze from the nearby bay carried the briny scent of salt water and fresh fish. But what made her heart thump wildly was the fact that Max was snoring softly beside her, his arm draped around her waist like they'd spent the night together. Emily froze, brain stalling as it scrambled to process. She was still wearing the filthy wedding dress from yesterday, now crusted with cheese and dried coffee. "Oh my God!" she shrieked, her voice shrill and echoing over the calm water. She shoved his arm away and bolted upright, her face flushing bright red. Max jerked awake, rolling off the bed and sitting up in a daze, hair wild and eyes still blurry with sleep. He blinked a few times, looked at her with a half-panic, half-amused expression, and said in his warm, groggy voice, "Please tell me I didn't accidentally marry you in my sleep." Emily turned even redder, yanking the dress up to cover herself, heart racing. You, what is this? Why am I here? Why were you your arm around my waist?" She pointed accusingly, voice shaking equal parts mortified and angry. Her mind reeled. What did he do? Why was she in the bed? And why did his arm feel kind of nice? Max burst out laughing, the sound booming over the gentle lapping of the waves. He stretched, his t-shirt riding up slightly to reveal lean, toned muscles. "Relax, runaway bride. You were sleeping on the sofa last night, but sometime in the middle of the night, you rolled off and climbed into bed, then you grabbed onto me like a koala. I tried to push you off, but you were out cold. Maybe you were dreaming about running a marathon." He winked, his tone teasing but not unkind. "Don't worry, I'm a gentleman. I let you hug me, and that's it." Emily wanted to dive into the sea and disappear. You didn't do anything to me?" she asked in a tiny voice, her cheeks burning. She faintly remembered last night talking about Lucas, laughing at Max's dumb joke, then crashing from exhaustion. But hugging him? Dear God, she hadn't shared a bed with anyone since her childhood teddy bear. Max shrugged, rising to his feet casually like this was just another Tuesday. "Swear on my chef's honor didn't touch a thing. You passed out after your emotional monologue, still soaked in coffee. I just threw a blanket over you and let you rest. The hugging part? That was all you." He grinned, then disappeared into the cabin. "I'll make coffee to make up for the trauma. And need a change of clothes? I've got a clean shirt somewhere." Emily sat there hugging her knees, trying to calm down. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wafted out from the cabin, mingling with the salty sea air, sharpening her senses. Max returned a minute later with 2 steaming mugs of coffee and a pale blue oversized men's shirt. "Here, wear this for now. Your dress looks like it was in a food fight with a trash can." Emily took it, blushing yet again, and ducked behind a curtain to change. The shirt was massive, smelled faintly of clean soap, and something unmistakably masculine. It felt strange, but warm. When she came out, they sat on the boat's deck, feet dangling over the sparkling bay. The scent of the sea mingled with fish from nearby boats. Seagulls squawked in the distance. Max sipped his coffee, voice more serious now. "Okay, bride on the run, be honest. After last night, what's your plan? Lucas is probably combing the city looking for you." Emily sighed and looked out over the open water, the tiny waves whispering promises of freedom. "I don't know yet, but I can't go back. I can't live with someone like him, a liar." She told Max everything about the affair, the bribery, the cold-blooded prenup. Then she smiled faintly. "Tell me about your boat life." Max nodded, his blue eyes softening with understanding. "I used to be a big-shot chef in the city, had my own seafood place, fancy clients, even press coverage. But my business partner turned out to be a crook. He emptied the accounts and left me with the debt. I lost everything, sold what I had, paid off what I could, bought this boat. Now it's just fishing, cooking, and staying out of trouble." He chuckled dryly. "Sounds kind of like your story. Trust the wrong person, lose everything, end up hiding on a boat." Emily looked at him, surprised by how closely their paths mirrored each other. "So you don't regret it? Living alone out here?" Max shrugged. "Of course I do. Sometimes. But it taught me something. Freedom is worth more than money. You reminded me of that. Sometimes one good crash is all it takes to change your whole life." They both laughed this time, freely. The sound rippled across the quiet water. For the first time, Emily felt genuinely free, not running anymore, but beginning something new. Yes, consequences loomed. She'd lose her job, her family might cut ties, her father would be furious, and her mother would cry. "What am I supposed to do now?" she whispered. Max looked at her and said, "Finish your coffee, then we'll figure it out." Surrounded by sea air and caffeine, Emily smiled a real, heartfelt smile. Even if the future was a mess, this moment felt like a beginning. Emily sat on the deck of the boat, a still warm cup of coffee in her hands, but her mind was far from the glittering bay bathed in morning sunlight. The soft lap of waves against the hull painted a picture of calm, but she knew it was only temporary. After last night, the fateful collision, the unraveling of the Lucas story, and that strange night of sleep in a stranger's bed, she had felt truly free for the first time. But that freedom was fragile, delicate like sea foam. Beside her, Max wore his usual crooked half-smile, as if he could read her thoughts. "What are you worrying about, runaway bride? Still mourning the dress covered in cheese?" She shook her head, trying to smile. "No, it's just, I know they're looking for me. Lucas isn't the type to let go easily." Max shrugged, stood up, and turned on the boat's old, crackly radio. "Let's see what the news says. Maybe they think you got abducted by aliens." The static buzzed, and then a serious voice cut through the silence. "Breaking news from the coastal city. Emily Peterson, daughter of local businessman Henry Peterson, has disappeared from her wedding to Lucas Thompson, son of the mayor. The city is abuzz, and police forces have been mobilized for a search." Mrs. Laura Peterson, the bride's mother, appeared on local television in tears, pleading, "Emily, come home, sweetie. I'm so worried. This is the biggest mistake of your life." The mayor has declined to comment, but his son Lucas made a public statement. "I forgive Emily. She's overwhelmed by pressure, but she must take responsibility for her family and the community. We'll bring her back safely." Authorities are investigating possible abduction or evasion and reviewing security footage around the church. Emily flinched, nearly dropping her cup. Her face turned pale, her heart pounding like a drum. "He's already hired investigators," she whispered, voice trembling. "Lucas isn't really forgiving. He'll use everything family reputation, political threats to drag me back. And my mom, she's crying on TV. Oh God, what have I done?" She clutched her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. The image of her mother sobbing on screen stabbed at her. Laura had always sacrificed for their family, and now Emily felt like a traitor. Max turned off the radio, his expression more serious than usual. He sat beside her, his warm hand gently resting on her shoulder, a surprisingly comforting gesture. "Take a breath. I know what it's like to be hunted down. When I went bankrupt, debt collectors came after me like wolves. But you're not alone anymore." He exhaled, looking out at the bay. "Let me help you get out of the city for a few days. I've got a delivery to make for an old restaurant contact down south. We'll take side roads, avoid cameras and cops." Emily looked up, eyes glassy. "Why are you helping me? We just met yesterday. Aren't you afraid of getting in trouble?" Max smirked, but his blue eyes glimmered with something real. "Because I've been where you are. My old partner didn't just steal from me, he ruined me. Left me drowning in debt. I had to disappear, start over. Seeing you now, it's like seeing my past self. Maybe this is my chance to pay fate back for that crazy collision." Emily was quiet for a moment. He was sarcastic and annoying, but behind the jokes was something steady, kind. "All right," she said, her voice firmer. "I'm in. But if we get caught, you have to say I kidnapped you." Max laughed. "Deal. Now get ready, bride. We've got ourselves a real escape mission." They packed quickly. Max retrieved his beat-up orange van from a nearby lot, an old patched-up vehicle smelling of old coffee and engine grease, packed with cooking supplies. "This is Sea Escape 2.0, Max announced, swinging the door open. "Not as fancy as Lucas's limo, but it runs quiet and doesn't ask questions." Emily climbed in, now wearing his oversized shirt instead of the ruined gown, still feeling out of place. They mapped out a route along the coastside roads only, no highways or tolls, stopping in small towns for food and fuel. We'll pretend we're a traveling couple, Max joked. I'm the charming chef. You're the runaway bride. The van rumbled to life, sea breeze rushing in through the open windows. Emily watched the scenery roll by, winding coastal roads, lush green trees, the bay fading in the distance. For the first time, the runaway journey didn't feel so lonely. But then her phone buzzed. A text from her father. Emily, you've ruined everything. The company will go bankrupt without the mayor's backing. What were you thinking? Come back before Lucas sues you for defamation. I'm furious, but more than that, I'm worried. Emily read it, and her tears returned. Ruined everything. The company will go bankrupt. Her father's words were like knives. Reality hit hard, not just losing her job, but destroying her family's future. Her father's poor investments had led them into debt. This marriage was supposed to be the salvation. The mayor had promised support if the wedding happened. Now what? Her father could face prison for financial fraud. Her mother would collapse. I destroyed my family, she whispered, her voice cracking. Max glanced over and spoke softly. Hey, don't do that. You ran because it was the right thing to do. That guy is a liar, you saw it firsthand. Your family will understand once they know the truth. He pulled the van to the side of a quiet coastal forest, the scent of pine drifting through the air. Listen, if you want to turn around, I'll drive you back. But if you want to keep going, we'll figure this out together. We can leak the evidence on Lucas to the press anonymously something. Emily wiped her tears and looked at him. Number, I'm not going back. But thank you. Max grinned. Don't thank me yet. If we get caught, I'm charging ransom. They both laughed just enough to break the tension. The van rolled back onto the road, their runaway journey with a stranger, now an unlikely ally, truly underway. Emily leaned against the window, the sea wind tossing her hair, wondering what the future would bring. But at least, she wasn't alone anymore. Max had just completed his delivery. The rusty orange van rumbled along a winding coastal road, its engine humming like the worn-out whisper of an old friend. Emily sat in the passenger seat, sea breeze pouring in through the open window, tangling her hair. They'd left the city hours ago, avoiding highways to steer clear of cameras and police. But this runaway road trip hadn't exactly been smooth sailing. Max drove with one hand, tapping rhythmically on the steering wheel to the fuzzy beat of the radio. He glanced at her with that signature half-smile. You know, bride, you're really pulling off this runaway look, trading the wedding gown for my shirt. Is that a new fashion trend? Emily smirked, but her heart felt heavy. Better than going back to Lucas in that dress. They stopped at several quirky little towns along the way, tiny forgotten places filled with creaky wooden houses and curious locals. Their first stop was a small fishing village where they refueled and grabbed some food. Emily scanned the area nervously, certain that the press had spread the news by now. I think I just saw my face on a wanted poster, she whispered, pointing at an old newspaper on the corner shop counter. Missing bride, reward offered for information. Max shrugged. Guess that means we just drive faster. But trouble found them in the next town, a peaceful place with a flea market and a retro coffee shop. They stopped to rest. Emily had to use the restroom desperately, thanks to that strong morning coffee. Rushing inside the cafe, she panicked at the murmuring crowd and the old woman clutching a newspaper with her face on the front page. In a rush to hide, Emily dashed into the nearest bathroom without checking the sign. Inside, an elderly man washing his hands turned sharply and shouted, "What are you doing in here? This is the men's room." Emily froze, blushing furiously. Sorry, I went in the wrong door. The man's eyes widened as he squinted at her face. You're that runaway bride from the news. Someone call the cops. Emily bolted out, nearly crashing into Max waiting outside. He doubled over laughing, holding his stomach. The runaway bride turned criminal caught invading enemy territory. The men's room scandalous. But the joke quickly turned real. The old man did call the local police, and within minutes, 2 officers arrived, eyeing them with suspicion. Who are you? One asked Max, his hand hovering near the cuffs. She matches the description of the missing bride. Max tried to explain. She left willingly. We're just road tripping. But the officer shook his head. Sounds like a kidnapping. The picture matches. Into the patrol car. Both of you. Max was handcuffed temporarily and pushed into the car while Emily panicked. No, I ran away from the wedding. He didn't kidnap me, he helped me. She kept her voice steady. The second officer checked their IDs and made a call to verify things. No formal arrest warrant, just a missing person alert from the city. If it's voluntary, sign this statement, the officer told her. But seriously, go home before this guy drags you into bigger trouble. After a tense half hour, they released Max, but not without a stern warning. Next time, try not to look like a kidnapper. Max dusted his hands and laughed as they walked away. Next time, you drive. I almost went to jail for being your getaway driver. They got back on the road, the van now filled with a strange mix of tension and humor. At the next oddball town with a local dolphin festival and a massive fish statue, they pulled over for lunch and a breather. Emily looked out the window, the sea breeze catching her hair. I used to dream of being a painter, you know, sketching by the bay, having an art show in Paris. But my family pushed me into business school. Then they pushed me into marrying Lucas to save my dad's company. Her voice was soft and her hand clutched her sketchbook tightly. Max nodded, gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. I get it. From famous chef to boat drifter. At least I learned how to live simply. They both chuckled, but then Emily sighed. But I've lost my job, no money. How do I even survive? Silence fell. The weight of reality returned, heavier than ever. Then she snapped, teasing, You drive like a turtle. If they're chasing us, we're doomed. They stopped for lunch under a pine tree along the coast. Max handed her a sandwich and said, as if answering the question she hadn't finished, Live simple, bride. Fish, cook, paint, who needs a mansion? I had it all once. Lost it all. Now I'm happier. Emily scowled. Easy for you to say, you don't have a family counting on you. But then she fell silent, realizing he wasn't entirely wrong. Her phone buzzed a call from her mother. Emily picked up, and Laura's voice came through, angry and tearful. Emily, you've cut us off. Your father is meeting with lawyers. Bankruptcy is certain. What were you thinking? Running away. Lucas said he might sue. Come home now. Emily hung up, fresh tears falling. She's furious. I've ruined everything. Max pulled over and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. This isn't your fault. Lucas lied. You ran for the right reasons. We'll figure something out. We can leak the scandal anonymously. Let the truth do the work. Emily wiped her tears and looked at him. Thanks, you're not as awful as you look. He laughed. Careful. Compliments might make me blush. They both chuckled. The van rumbled back onto the road. Their strange mistakes, awkward bathrooms, police mix-ups, unexpected confessions had become memories. And those memories were slowly pulling them closer. The escape continued, but Emily no longer felt like she was running alone. The rusty orange van came to a stop beside a secluded stretch of beach where gentle waves lapped at the smooth white sand, and the air was thick with the scent of salt and wild grasses. After 2 days of driving, avoiding main roads to stay out of sight, the last quirky town was now behind them. Max cut the engine and flashed his trademark half-smile. Welcome to Nomad Resort, he said. No suites, no room service, just sand and starlight. Emily stepped out barefoot, her toes sinking into the warm sand, the sea breeze tossing her hair wildly. It looks like paradise, she whispered, forgetting, just for a moment, about Lucas, lawsuits, and her crumbling family. For the next few days, they lived like true nomads with no plan, no schedule, only the rhythm of waves and the sun above. By day, Max borrowed a small boat from a local fisherman and caught fresh fish, then grilled them over a beach campfire. The smell of charred wood and sizzling fish drifted through the salty air. Better than Michelin? He teased, handing Emily a perfectly golden piece of fish, his eyes twinkling in the late afternoon sun. He cooked like a true chef, adding wild herbs, foraging local greens for salad, even transforming the sand into a dining table with an old checkered cloth from the van. Emily, for the first time in years, began to draw again. She sat on the sand, sketchbook open in her lap, capturing the shimmering sea, distant fishing boats, and Max's face when he smiled. I used to dream of doing this every day, she said softly, pencil gliding across the paper. Max peered over her shoulder. It's beautiful. You've got real talent. So why'd you give it up for business school? Emily gave a wistful smile. My family pushed me. Dad said art wouldn't pay the bills. But here, surrounded by sea breeze and old ballads playing from the van's scratchy radio, dancing clumsily on the beach by firelight, she felt truly free. They slept under the stars, wrapped in blankets pulled from the van, the sky glittering above them. At night, the soft hush of waves was their lullaby. Max kept a respectful distance, but his warmth was always near something Emily was beginning to get used to. Slowly, silently, they both realized these were the best days of their lives. No scandal, no pressure, just simplicity, laughter, and freedom. I've never felt this happy, Emily whispered one night, lying on her back watching the constellations. Max turned to her. Me neither, he replied. One afternoon, while Max grilled fish and Emily sketched nearby, he grinned and teased as usual. If you stay here much longer, I might just marry you for real. Beach wedding, seagulls as bridesmaids, dolphins as guests. Emily laughed, but her heart skipped. That lopsided grin, those ocean blue eyes. You're joking, right? I'm a runaway bride, hardly wife material. Max winked. Exactly why I like you. But that night, the piece cracked. As they sat by the fire, the smoky scent mingling with leftover grilled fish, Emily received a message from her younger brother. Sis, Dad's meeting with the lawyer. Bankruptcy's inevitable. Mom's been crying nonstop. Please come home. Emily curled into herself, hugging her knees. I'm scared for my dad, she said, her voice trembling. If I go back, maybe I can still save everything. This life is wonderful, but it's not real. I can't run forever. Max frowned, his tone turning serious. Real? You think going back to that lying bastard is real? Lucas's scandal is going to blow up, and if you're by his side, it'll take you down too. Let me show you what real looks like. You send that evidence to the press. Let the world see who he really is. Don't sacrifice yourself for someone else's mess. Emily snapped, her voice tight. That's easy for you to say. You don't have a family to save. My dad could go to prison. Max exhaled slowly. I don't have a family because they abandoned me after my bankruptcy. But you have me now. We'll figure it out. Together. The air grew heavy, the fire crackling between them. But then Emily gave a small, bitter laugh. You might be right. Thanks for teaching me how to face things. Max looked at her gently. You lightened something in me, Emily. After all these years of loneliness, meeting you gave me a reason to feel alive again. The romance bloomed quietly between them. Max stood and offered his hand. Dance with me? She hesitated, then took it. His arm slipped around her waist, sending her heart racing. They swayed by the fire under a starlit sky. No words, just the soft song of waves around them. They both knew these strange, peaceful days were the most beautiful they'd ever had. But they also knew it couldn't last forever. Soon reality would return. Lucas, her family, and a decision that could change everything. The strangely peaceful days on the quiet beach had stretched on like a beautiful dream, but Emily knew reality was never far behind. That night, after a dinner of grilled fish by the fire, its smoky aroma still lingering in the salty air, she and Max sat stargazing, the rhythmic sound of waves lulling them into comfort. The sea breeze tugged gently at Emily's hair as Max cracked jokes about his early chef days. She laughed freely, her heart fluttering every time he looked at her. Then Max stood. I'm going to call an old friend, check in about that delivery gig. You stay here. Emily nodded, but curiosity flared in her chest. Max usually made calls openly. Why sneak off now? She waited a few minutes, then quietly followed him, barefoot on the sand, heart pounding. Behind a large rock, she caught the low murmur of his voice, carried by the breeze that smelled faintly of damp seaweed. Yeah, she's the runaway bride, that's right. I can't keep her here forever. I need to figure something out before things get more complicated. Emily's heart seized. Keep her here forever? It sounded like he was planning to turn her in. She staggered back, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. No, it can't be. Max had told her about being betrayed by a business partner, about losing everything. How could he do the same to her? But his words echoed too clearly. Max returned to the fire soon after, looking slightly tense. All done. There's a small hiccup with the delivery time-sensitive stuff. I've got to take care of it soon. Emily forced her voice to stay neutral. What kind of hiccup? You were gone a while. Is it serious? Max shrugged, sitting beside her again. Not really, it's just... The goods can't sit around too long. I have to deal with it quickly. Can't keep them too long. Can't keep them too long. The words cut deeper now. Was he talking about her? Emily's mind raced. Maybe Max had been in contact with Lucas. Maybe he was tired of hiding her. Maybe Lucas had offered money. Those flirty comments, I might marry you for real. Were they just part of the act? I'm a burden, she thought, her eyes stinging with tears. A wave of misunderstanding rose crashing over the fragile trust she had built. Emily believed Max was working with Lucas, that he planned to resolve her return her to the man she'd run from. Her chest tightened. The connection between them, the warmth she had begun to trust it all, shattered. She made her decision. Emily would leave. Tonight. No confrontation. She didn't want to give him a chance to talk her down or worse, stop her. When Max had drifted to sleep, snoring softly beside the dying fire, the sound mixing with the rhythm of the tide, Emily quietly packed her small pouch, her sketchbook, the last of her savings. The smoke from the fire clung faintly to the night air. Stars sparkled like silent witnesses overhead. She tore a page from her sketchbook and wrote him a note. Max, thank you for everything these past few days. But I heard your phone call. You can't keep me here forever. I don't want to be a burden. Don't come looking for me. Emily, tears fell onto the paper as she folded it and pinned it under a small rock. Then she left. Barefoot on the cold sand, the wind howled past her ears like whispers of blame. She walked, then ran back toward the road. Eventually, she found a trucker willing to let her hitch a ride heading south anywhere far from here. Her heart felt shattered. The most beautiful days of her life had now become the most painful memories. Running again, she thought bitterly. But this time, it wasn't just from a wedding. This time, she was running from someone she had started to trust, maybe even love. And this time, she had never felt more alone. Still following the story? If this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home, to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. The morning sun rose over the beach, casting a golden shimmer across the sand like scattered diamonds. But Max woke with a heaviness in his chest. The waves still whispered their soothing rhythm. The breeze still carried that familiar, salty scent. But Emily was gone. He sat up, hands searching the thin blanket where she usually curled beside him. Emily, he called out, his voice still husky from sleep. No answer. Max's heart began to race. He jumped to his feet, eyes scanning the quiet beach, her small pouch gone, her sketchbook missing. Then he saw it, a folded piece of paper tucked under a stone near the dying campfire. He picked it up, hands trembling slightly as he read. Max, thank you for the past few days, but I heard your phone call. You said you can't keep me forever. If you're planning to hand me over to Lucas, or if I've become a burden, don't come looking for me. Emily. Her handwriting was shaky, Max's face drained of color. He crumpled the note in his fist, then roared, Damn it! His voice echoed over the empty beach. But it wasn't anger at her for leaving, it was anger that she hadn't trusted him. How could she think that, he muttered. After everything? After all we shared? The phone call last night, the one she overheard, had been with his friend Jake, a lawyer. They were discussing how to help Emily take legal action against Lucas, challenge the prenup, expose the scandal, and win back her freedom. Handle it quickly wasn't about her. It was about the lawsuit, Max whispered, clenching his jaw. He scanned the sand, fresh footprints led toward the road. She couldn't have been gone long. He sprinted to the van, turned the key, and the engine rumbled to life with a groan. His knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. She didn't trust me, he muttered again, slamming a fist against the dashboard. All those days fishing, sketching, laughing at flea markets, did they mean nothing? Did she really believe he would betray her like that? The van roared down the coastal road, sea breeze whipping through the open window as Max sped up, chasing the trail she left behind. He called Jake. She's gone, Jake. Emily ran off. She must have overheard the call and thought I was turning her in. Jake sighed on the other end. Max, I told you to tell her everything, not try to surprise her with legal strategy. Max gritted his teeth, then hung up without a word. His fury simmered just beneath the surface fury, not at Emily, but at himself. He should have been clearer. She thought I was the enemy, he whispered and stepped harder on the gas. He thought it through. If she'd run, she'd hitchhike. The nearest train station heading south was a small outpost a few miles away. He turned off the main road, wheels skidding slightly on the gravel path toward the station. The old train depot came into view, rusted metal roof, a cracked bench, and the distant sound of an engine's horn. Max parked crookedly and jumped out, rushing into the crowd. The smell of diesel and toasted bread from a nearby vendor mixed with the morning haze. He scanned the station anxiously, desperately, and then he saw her. Sitting alone on a bench, her small pouch at her feet, staring numbly at the departure board. She was still wearing his oversized shirt, looking tiny in the midst of the crowd. Emily, he shouted, breathless as he pushed through the platform. She startled, stood up fast. Max, why are you here? Don't follow me. Her eyes were red, her voice cracked. I heard everything. You were helping Lucas, weren't you? I'm just a burden to you. Max reached her and grabbed her hands gently, his voice urgent and raw. Number Emily, no. You misunderstood. That call was to Jake, my lawyer friend. I was trying to help you. Lucas's prenup is a legal joke, and we've got enough dirt on him to flip the whole thing around. The deal I was talking about? It was about fighting back, not handing you over. She blinked, her hands trembling in his. But why didn't you just tell me? Max exhaled, then pulled her into his arms. I wanted to surprise you. I didn't want you to worry. But you were never a burden, Emily. Never. You're the only thing that's made me feel alive again. After I lost everything, I thought that was it, that no one would care again. Then you showed up, literally crashed into my life and brought it all back. Emily broke down, burying her face in his chest. I'm sorry, I was just scared. I've trusted the wrong people before. Max pressed a kiss to her forehead. Then trust me now. No more running. Let's face this together. She nodded slowly, the pounding in her chest finally calming. The station around them faded into the background, the sounds, the smells, the crowds. For a moment it was just them. The misunderstanding had shattered something, but not beyond repair. Emily looked up at him, eyes still wet but full of clarity. Let's go win, Max smiled. Damn right. The journey wasn't over. In fact, it was only just beginning. After clearing up the misunderstanding at the train station where Max had dramatically chased after Emily, like a scene from a low-budget action movie, complete with a rattling orange van instead of a sports car, they stood together amid the screech of train horns and the buttery smell of toasted bread wafting from a nearby food cart. Emily wiped her tears, voice steady but trembling. I have to go back. I can't run forever. I have to face my family and save my father from going bankrupt. Max nodded, squeezing her hand tighter, his palm warm with that familiar scent of sea salt and sand. Then we go together. I'll stand with you no matter what unless you want me in the wedding dress. Emily let out a tearful giggle. You'd look awful in tulle. They climbed back into the orange van, heading toward the city not as fugitives now, but as partners. Max cracked a smile as the sea breeze slipped through the open window. From runaway romance to homecoming showdown, classic rom-com reversal. But the humor couldn't quite hide the heaviness. Emily stared out at the winding road, chewing her lip. Lucas won't let this go. He has power. He'll turn me into some zombie bride tabloid tragedy. By midday, they pulled over for lunch at a small roadside cafe, wooden tables beneath shady trees, the air laced with fresh bread and coffee. Max ordered seafood sandwiches and crisp salads. Eat up, bride. You'll need strength to take on Mr. Emotionless Robot. Want me to order pizza for nostalgia's sake? Remind you of the impact moment? Emily gave a weak smile, taking a bite. The taste of fresh seafood brought back images of wind, waves, and sketching in the sand. Thank you, Max. Without you, I'd probably still be sprinting down some highway in a wedding dress covered in melted cheese. But the peace didn't last. A sleek, black limousine screeched into the parking lot, dust flying dramatically like a scene from a soap opera. Out stepped Lucas Thompson, tall, smug, and polished to a plastic shine in his perfectly tailored gray suit. His hair was gelled within an inch of its life, his fake smile already prepped for the cameras. Beside him, his lawyer, a thin, hawk-nosed man with gold-rimmed glasses and a briefcase thicker than a law textbook. Behind them, a swarm of reporters with flashing cameras and thrusting microphones. The air shifted. The cafe patrons fell silent, the scent of coffee now muddled by the cloying stench of Lucas's cologne. "Emily," Lucas announced theatrically, striding forward like he was giving a campaign speech. "You scared us all. Your mother's been in tears, your father's in crisis meetings, but I forgive you. Come back. Just apologize to the press, say you panicked under pressure, and everything will return to plan. We'll move forward like we were supposed to. I promise not to schedule kisses anymore. Well, not all of them." He gave a smug chuckle. His eyes, however, were ice. Emily stood trembling but firm, her hand gripping the edge of the wooden table. "No, Lucas, I'm not coming back. I know about the affair, the bribery scandal. I choose freedom." The lawyer stepped forward, tone clinical. "Miss Peterson, under the terms of your prenuptial contract, your public exit has damaged my client's reputation. We're prepared to file for compensation, loss of image, wedding costs. However, if you apologize now, we will consider it a standard runaway bride incident and move on." Reporters shoved microphones in her face. "Is it true, Emily? Did you run away because of Lucas's bribery scandal?" Emily's voice rang out, clear and resolute. "No, I'm not going back. He lied to me, over and over." Lucas's smile faded. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You don't get it, do you? If I don't step in, your father's going to prison. That dumb investment of his, fraud, embezzlement, without me, your whole family goes down. So maybe say thank you and smile for the cameras." Emily faltered, heart pounding. Her mind flashed to her father Henry, worn out, desperate, her mother crying, her brother's anxious messages. Could she really risk everything? But then, Max stepped forward, placing himself firmly between her and Lucas. "She's not going with you. Emily is my fiancée." His arm wrapped protectively around her waist, voice unwavering. "And I will protect her. We have proof you coerced her about the prenup, about the scandal. Walk away, Lucas, before the reporters find out what kind of intervention you're really offering." Lucas's jaw clenched, his face flushing red. "Who the hell do you think you are?" The lawyer cut in, voice sharp. "This is harassment. We'll sue you next. Chef turned criminal will be quite the headline." Reporters went wild, cameras flashing, microphones flying. Max just smirked. "Former chef, part-time boat captain, full-time man who doesn't make romantic schedules. I don't need contracts or influence to keep Emily. She chose me, willingly." Emily looked up at him, tears in her eyes but smiling, gripping his hand tightly as she tried not to laugh at the jab. Lucas turned beet red, practically hissing. "You'll regret this. Emily, think about it. Your father will go to jail. And him? He's a homeless boat bum with a van that can't go uphill." He spun on his heel, stormed back to the limo with his lawyer in tow. The car revved and peeled off, kicking up dust as reporters chased after it, shouting questions. Emily turned into Max's arms, tears flowing again, but this time she was smiling through them. "Thank you. I almost cracked. And that wedding schedule joke? Genius." Max kissed her forehead and whispered, "We're in this together, remember? We'll figure out how to help your dad and maybe get a new van so I look more like a proper fiancé." They climbed back into the van. The road home still lay ahead, and the real battle with Lucas's threats, legal ultimatums, and long-buried secrets was just beginning. But Emily wasn't afraid anymore. She had Max, and a sharp tongue, a fierce heart, and just enough sarcasm to survive. Emily and Max returned to the city at dusk, the sun setting behind the towering buildings. The scent of salt and freedom was quickly replaced by exhaust fumes and cold concrete. Max's beat-up orange van rolled to a stop in front of her childhood home, a once proud villa by the bay, now somber and silent. Pale yellow light glowed faintly through the windows, like a fading memory. Emily drew a deep breath, gripping Max's hand tightly. "I'm scared, but I have to face this." Max kissed her hand softly. "I'm with you. No matter what, unless you want me to wear the wedding dress instead." She laughed through the anxiety. "You'd look terrible in tulle." Emily entered the house alone. Max stayed in the van, not wanting to complicate things. Her mother, Laura, opened the door, eyes swollen from crying. "You're home," she sobbed, hugging Emily tight. "I was so worried. Your father, he's not doing well." Inside the dim living room, her father sat on the worn sofa, glass of whiskey in hand. His face was pale, hollow. "Emily, what did you do?" he asked hoarsely. "The company, it's gone. The mayor pulled his support. We're drowning in debt." Emily knelt beside him, her tears flowing freely. "I'm sorry, Dad, but Lucas, he lied. I couldn't marry him." Henry shook his head slowly. "But now what? I could face jail time for financial fraud. That bad investment, it's ruined us. Can you fix it?" Emily lay awake that night, caught in a storm of guilt and memory. Freedom or family? The days on the beach painting, laughing, Max's warmth felt so far away. But her father might go to prison. Her mother cried. Her brother was scared. "What am I supposed to choose?" she whispered to herself. Outside, Max sat in the dark van, calling Jake, the lawyer who had been helping from the start. "What have you got?" Max asked, voice low. Jake replied, "We've got everything. Lucas set it up. He orchestrated that bad investment to trap Henry, then used it to pressure Emily into marrying him so he could take over the company. We have emails, money transfers. He used his assistant to launder funds. Plus, we've confirmed bribery charges. Forward this to the police, and Lucas is done." Max's grip tightened on the phone. "Thanks. It's time." He texted Emily, "Meet me tomorrow morning. We have what we need to save your dad." But she didn't see it. She was still battling her heart. The next morning, Jake called with a warning. "Lucas is forcing Emily to speak publicly. He's staging a press conference, wants her to apologize and save his reputation. If she refuses, he'll leak Henry's alleged fraud to the media and let the law destroy him." Max floored the gas pedal, tearing through the streets toward City Square. The plaza was packed, reporters, flashing cameras, microphones everywhere. Emily stood on a stage, pale and trembling, gripping the mic with both hands. The smell of car exhaust mixed with the faint sweetness of nearby park flowers. Earlier that morning, she'd spoken with her mother in private. Laura had cried, holding her tightly. "I regret forcing you. I was forced to marry your father for money. I lived pretending all my life. But now, it's your choice. I'll stand by you, no matter what happens." Emily had clung to her mother. "Thank you. I know what I have to do now." On stage, cameras flared like fireworks. Emily took a deep breath. "I'm sorry for ever believing I had to live by anyone else's expectations," she said, voice trembling but clear. "Today, I choose freedom. I will not marry Lucas Thompson. He is a liar and a manipulator." Gasps erupted. Reporters shouted, "Do you have proof? Is this about the bribery allegations?" Lucas, visibly shaken, surged forward. "She's lying. She's confused." But then Max emerged from the crowd, calm and steady, a folder in hand. He handed it to police officers waiting at the edge of the square. "These are the documents, emails, and transactions. Lucas manipulated Henry Peterson into a bad investment to bankrupt him. He used a forced marriage as a cover, and here's proof of the bribes." Chaos exploded. Officers stormed the stage, flashing badges. "Lucas Thompson, you are under arrest for fraud, coercion, and bribery." Lucas's face twisted in shock. "No, this is a mistake. You can't do this." Handcuffed, he was dragged off as reporters swarmed, shouting questions. Emily stood frozen as tears streamed down her cheeks, relief washing over her in waves. Her father pushed through the crowd and hugged her tightly. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. Max's evidence had cleared Henry of fraud. The investment was a trap. The truth had set them free. Emily turned to Max, eyes glowing. She ran into his arms and kissed him passionately, right there in front of the entire city. "Thank you. I choose you," she whispered. He smiled against her lips. "Then choose freedom with me. No contracts, just us." The crowd erupted in applause. Reporters cheered. Somewhere, a saxophonist started playing. Emily laughed through her tears as she leaned into Max's embrace. Amid flashing lights and floating flower scents, she had finally chosen. Not obligation, not fear, not appearances, but freedom and love, with the man who made her feel truly alive. A month had passed since Lucas was handcuffed in the bustling square, amid flashing cameras and applause like a low-budget action movie. His bribery and manipulation scandal had been fully exposed thanks to the evidence from Max and Jake. Lucas was imprisoned, Emily's father's company was saved, and even awarded compensation by the court. Mr. Henry now smiled more, Mrs. Laura stopped crying, and Emily's younger brother sent a text. "Sis, you're so cool!" Emily finally felt truly free, not running away, but truly living. She and Max returned to the Sea Escape, the boat where everything began with that fateful crash. During that time, they lived simply. Max cooked, Emily painted, and they joked about a wedding 2.0 this time without coercion. But Max had his own plan. One evening at sunset, when the sun turned the bay a fiery orange and the sea breeze carried the salty scent of the ocean mixed with wildflowers, he got down on one knee on the deck, holding a simple ring made from a seashell he'd found on the beach. "Emily," he said in his warm, teasing voice, "I once lost everything, my restaurant, my money, my trust in people. But meeting you, I found something far more precious. A runaway bride whose smile makes all my tiredness vanish. Will you marry me? No contracts, only love, and more runaway adventures together." Emily laughed out loud, tears streaming down her face from joy. "Absolutely, you crazy chef. I accept this time. I won't run away. Unless you run with me." They shared a passionate kiss as the waves applauded. Max whispered, "But I have a surprise. The wedding is tomorrow, right here on this boat. Be ready." Emily's eyes widened. "Tomorrow? Are you insane? Where are the guests?" Max winked. "It's a secret, but I promise, it'll be quirky and fun." The next morning, the Sea Escape was decked out simply yet warmly. String lights borrowed from a nearby bar wound around the railing, wildflowers from the local market scattered across the deck, and a small wooden table held toasted bread and fruit. The morning breeze carried the salty aroma of the sea and the scent of freshly brewed coffee from Max's thermos. Emily wore a simple white dress she'd hastily bought in town, not as grand as before, but she felt more beautiful than ever. "Ready, bride?" Max asked, clean white shirt ironed and his scruffy beard neatly trimmed. The guests began arriving, not VIPs, but the quirky folks they'd encountered on their journey, plus Emily's family. First her parents and younger brother, Mr. Henry, drove them, Mrs. Laura and their son all smiling brightly. "I'm proud of you, daughter," Mr. Henry said, hugging Emily emotionally. "After the Lucas scandal, the company is stable again. And Max, you're a good son-in-law." Mrs. Laura winked. "I've supported you from the start." "No one's forcing this time." Emily's 16-year-old brother beamed. "Sis, this boat wedding is so cool. I brought a gift, a drawing of you wearing that melted cheese wedding dress." Then came the quirky guests. The fish shop owner from their first fishing village, carrying a basket of fresh fish. "Congrats! This fish is your wedding gift, Grillet, and it's Michelin level, better than any fancy wedding." He grinned, his yellowed teeth shining in the sunlight. The elderly woman who sold bread at the market climbed aboard with her cane. "Beautiful bride, I brought toasted bread, eat up, so you have energy to run away again if needed. But this time, bring the groom." She winked. The smell of warm bread made everyone laugh. Finally, a scruffy stray dog, the one they'd fed on the beach, trotted aboard at Max's whistle. It wagged its tail and barked happily, as though offering its blessing. "Our VIP guest," Emily joked, petting its head. "He saw everything we've been through." The ceremony began. No priest, just Jake, Max's best friend, bearing witness and reading the simple vows Emily had written. The boat gently rocked on the water, the salty breeze rustling through wildflowers, creating a romantically humorous atmosphere. The handful of guests applauded the fish shop owner, whistled, the elderly lady chuckled, the dog barked joyfully, and Emily's brother shouted, "Kiss! Kiss!" Max looked into Emily's eyes, his blue gaze radiant. "Emily, I lost everything once, my restaurant, my money, my trust. But this time, after meeting you, I've won everything. You are freedom, you are joy, you are my everything." Emily laughed, tears of happiness spilling down her cheeks as she clutched his hand. "Max, I skipped one wedding to find a wedding worth living, and it's with you. No contracts, no coercion, only love and more elopements together." They sealed their vows with a deep kiss, amidst gentle applause. The dog ran circles around them, wagging its tail. Mrs. Laura wiped tears. "How lovely," Mr. Henry smiled, declaring, "Congratulations, son-in-law. Now, let's eat grilled fish." The ceremony ended with a small celebration, toasted bread from the elderly baker, fresh fish from the shop owner, and cold beer from Max. Emily's brother teased, "Sis, next time you run away, remember to take me with you." Everyone laughed. Laughter mingled with the murmur of the sea. As guests departed, the dog following the baker, the fish shop owner carrying his basket, Emily and Max sat together on the deck, watching a crimson sunset over the bay. "Husband dear," Emily teased, "you ready for our new life?" Max smiled, pulling her close. "Ready, but next time you run away, bring me along." They laughed together, their laughter blending with the sound of lapping waves, the surprise wedding on the boat where everything began, and officially ended with true love. Early morning on the sea escape, Emily stood at the bow of the boat, sketchbook open, pencil gliding swiftly as she captured the fiery sunrise, turning the bay a brilliant orange. The sea breeze carried the salty scent of ocean and fresh fish from the nearby market, her hair dancing lightly like a whisper of freedom. A month had passed since their surprise wedding, and their life was simple but full of joy. Not a luxurious mansion, just a small boat and love. Emily painted everyday waves, boats, and Max with his signature smirk. "You made me way too handsome," he once joked, kissing her cheek. Max had reopened a restaurant, but just a small seaside diner called Escape Kitchen, with outdoor wooden tables and a simple menu: grilled fish, fresh salads, and runaway coffee. He manned the open kitchen, the spicy aroma wafting through the air as he stirred his signature dish, Reunion Curry, a seafood curry made with nostalgic ingredients. A dash of melted cheese for the sticky dress memory, and bitter coffee, their crash encounter. "This one's for you," he called from the kitchen, voice warm and playful. "Hot curry like our love, spicy but sweet in the end." Emily laughed, set her sketchbook down, and walked into the cafe, which was now their second home, with a sparkling bay view. Their regulars, the fish shop owner and the old bread lady, sat laughing together. "So, bride, what are you drawing today?" the fish man asked. Emily winked. "My husband. He's hottest when he's cooking." Max blushed, handing her the curry. "Eat before it gets cold. And check your email, something came in from that city gallery." Emily opened her old laptop on the wooden table, heart pounding. An email from a prestigious gallery. "Dear Emily Harlan," her new married name, "we were impressed by your Runaway to Freedom collection. We would love to feature your work in next month's exhibition theme, Journeys of Love. Congratulations." Emily screamed with joy, jumping to her feet. "Max, they want to showcase my art. A real exhibition." Max rushed from the kitchen, swept her up, and spun her around in the cafe. "I knew it. You're so talented. Now you're a famous artist, and I'm just the chef married to a star." The customers clapped. The fish shop owner whistled. "Congrats! Free fish today." The old lady chuckled. "Told you runaway brides always land on their feet." The scruffy dog, now the cafe's official pet, ran in circles, barking happily. Emily beamed, happy tears glistening. "Thank you, everyone. And you. You're the reason I started painting again." Max kissed her softly, whispering, "Please don't run away again. I've only got one boat in this tiny cafe." Emily laughed, hugging him tighter. "If I run, I'm taking you with me. Let's run away into Paris for that art exhibit." They burst out laughing, their laughter mingling with the sound of crashing waves and sizzling curry. The little seaside cafe buzzed with life, not just for the food, but for the story of the runaway bride and her rescue chef. Each morning, Emily sketched at the bow of the boat. Each evening, Max cooked up something new. Their life filled with love, humor, and freedom was now sailing straight into a brilliant sunrise, where every dream felt possible.